Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello all. I am here to teach you some basics about how to program in Java. So I will start by in this lesson with introducing some background about programming, or why we are programming, or what was the initial way of programming. And then I will take you to the program structure and teach you some fundamentals about it, something that you should know or you should be aware of when you're writing each code. And then I will take you to the first example in how to print hello world in the screen. So why we are coding, or why we are programming? Previously, when the first computer came, people used to or people used to utilize from it uh, by letting human changing some switches and cables, as you can see in the screen, and in order to write what they have in the paper that they are holding and apply it in the computer to get a certain output in a certain way, like these slits in the screen, as you can see. So as you can see, it's only numbers, because initially computer was used to solve some arithmetic equations, to solve numerical problems. But these problems uh, became complicated, and they found that humans to enter this kind of complicated thing, it will not work anymore, and it will take from their time, and there will be a sort of delays in executing customers problems. So they thought of implementing uh, an abstraction layer. It's another layer that can take control of the hardware level that they are doing, the switching and these things. So here, from this point, the software became popular and became utilizable by different people. Like, instead of we having specialized people to enter this command in a single computer, um, many people were able just to feed their program and get their needed output. So that's why we are coding. And uh, from here, you should know that we are coding just to let the computer execute some instructions, and in order to give you a certain output. So that's why we are programming. And let's move now to the first example, which is the hello world. So this is the code, and now I'll explain to you the code line by line. Now, there is a general structure of any code that you should be aware of. Like, and we'll start with this first line, which is import java.util. Now, as I told you previously, to software came to facilitate the controlling of the hardware. However, when you are writing a software, you are writing something that needed to be interpreted at first, then be translated into a hardware. And for the interpretation of this kind of software, there are some libraries and APIs that is used in the background to understand your code and then translate it to the machine code and then to the hardware code. So when you are writing this import Java utility, it will make your code understandable for the lower layers. What is the lower layers? It's some the layers that separates your code your level of code from the hardware level. So this line should be exist in each and every uh, program that you are writing. So now, as if you are telling that, okay, you can start coding because I brought all the libraries that will understand your code. This is first of all. Second thing, then after importing all the needed libraries, we will start by creating the class. Now the class is the general thing in the code. It's the first thing that you should start with. It's imagine it, it's like a, a folder that contains all the files that you need. Like the main folder will be hello world, and the files which are inside it are the first function, which is called main, which is this one, and there might be another functions. So to access these functions, you should be able, you have to access the the main folder, which is the class. This is in simple, and in the future lessons you will learn how what is the class and the main use of the class, and in more details. But for the time being, just think of it like what I've mentioned. Now, after the class, there is something which is inside the class called the main function. The main function, just to tell you how important it is now, uh, how important it should be, how important it is, and how important that it should be existed in each and every program, that whenever you will run or execute the code, always the executor, whatever it is, will search for the main function, if it's there or not. If it's not there, it might not execute. It will not execute. So now there are many syntax in this line of code, in these functions. I think you will be aware of it later, but for the time being, you should be aware of that these three line of code must exist in each and every code that you are writing. Now, just to explain some syntax, like this public. Public means that your function, your main function is seen by other functions, like your main file, which is inside the hello world main folder, will be seen by the other files in these folders and outside even the hello world. So it's viewable. That means it's executable, it's reachable. That's the meaning of public. So, and void later, I prefer to explain to you later, and even the static. And you can see that there is this is called a parameter that we are passing to this function. And string args, it's used mainly in the by the command line, and later I will show it to you even when it's being used. I mean, or how you can utilize from it. But for the time being, you should be aware of this structure, that you should write it in each and every program. That's it. And now this line of code, this is the syntax of how you will write hello world in the screen, how you'll print out hello world in the screen. You should write the syntax system.out.println. It's like there's a function or a class that has a function inside it, which has also the sub function, which let this line of code print, take an input of this message and print it in the screen. And as you can see, we should end it by this semicolon. This is important. So we should memorize this. It's good that you will know how it's used, as I explained to you for the time being. So now you know the general structure of any code that you are going to write. Let's move now to show you how you can execute it, how you can run it. In my situation, I'm using this application, which is called Visual Studio Code. So at first, we need to create a new file, and this file needed to be renamed with the name of the class that we have. And the name of the class that we have, it's hello world, and it should be with extension dot with the extension .java. And we will click save. Now the file is renamed successfully. And let's copy and paste the code that we have. Just copy and paste, and let's make sure that there's nothing was copied extra to our code, and so we have to remove this one, and we have to remove this one, and let's change the shape a little bit and make it more neat. So this is it. So this is the import, and this is the main class hello world, which has the same name of our file name, and this is the main function, and this is the simple code that we wrote, which is to print something on the screen. Now let's this dot, small dot here, or small point here, or bullet thing here, that means the file is not saved yet, so we need to save it at first before we will compile it or execute it. Now it's saved. I just clicked Ctrl S. Now let's run this code. So I will open the terminal here, and this is the path where the file is existed now. It's in lesson 1, and to run the code, first we need to compile it. We need to tell the lower layers how to understand. We need to translate it to a things that's understandable by the lower layers. So at first, compilation will check if there's an error, and then it will start to translate. So we will run this command java c, and we will type the name of the file, hello world .java, and we'll click enter. Now it's compiled, there's no problem, no errors. And because if there's an errors under this compilation step, you will see error in this line and this thing. You will see it later in the coming lessons. And now we will run the code by running Java, no matter Java small letter or capital letter, it's fine. But now with the name of the file only, hello world, and click enter. As you can see, it printed for you the hello world. It understands that when it's run, it should print something, and this thing, it's hello world, as it's giving in this instruction. Now about doing another printing exercise. Can we print this thing and print it on the screen? Let's see. First of all, when reading any problem, we should understand 3 main things. First of all, what this program need to do, what this program have to do, and understand how we should do it. Now this program need us to print this thing in the screen, and so we need to understand what the program should do, and what it should give as an output, and what it should take as an input. Here it will not take from the end user anything. It's just need to print, like the hello world, that the exercise that we did. So to print this thing, it's very easy. So we will just, I think these lines, it's number of stars which is decreased by 2. until it reached 1. So to print this thing, we will just change here instead of hello world. We don't want to output hello world. We want to put output stars, and this stars should be decreased by 2 each and every time. 2, and here now 4 until we reach 1. Okay, and then 1. So we will save it, Control S, and now we will execute it with terminal. We will run Java C compile hello world, compiled without any error, and now we will run it. So as you can see, we were able to produce the needed output. So that's it for today's lesson. I hope that it was easy for you, and I hope that you will subscribe to this channel to know about the future coming lessons, and like it or comment with your feedback or something to enhance it in the future, or to add it or enhance it in the future. Thank you for your listening and watching, and see you.